welcome to Laird Wellness Live. Scott Laird.
Jody Laird, good evening.
Welcome. Hope you're having a good week. It's cold here today, 25 for a low this morning, and it's not that much warmer outside right now.
Right.
So pretty darn cold. Hopefully, well, at least it's not snowing here. If you live in the north, it's snowing, and we've seen places where we used to live in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and it is, like 0 there, and that's a warm day.
It's cold.
It's cold. So, as we get closer to the holidays, of course, it's getting colder and we have meals with friends and family. And of course, Thanksgiving's just around the corner. And of course, if you celebrate Thanksgiving, if you celebrate Hanukkah or Christmas, one of those two, there's always stuff that you don't normally eat. Lots of sugar, and sugar, as we assume, brings down our immune system, all that kind of stuff. So we decided we would do a show on sugar because of this season and show you exactly the mechanism of how sugar does these things. Is it just a rumor that sugar causes pain? I mean, I tell people that all the time, right? You probably heard me tell this if you had any kind of consult with me, that sugar equals pain. Right. So stay away from sugar. Now, at the same time, Dr. Harshfield will inject glucose into a muscle in order to stop pain. I have a hunch that's a completely different mechanism where he's putting it directly into the muscle, whereas sugar going through your digestive tract is a different animal entirely. So don't think that those two are equated, because they're not. And it doesn't surprise me that God's irony plays a little joke on us here, where if we eat too much sugar, we get pain. But if we inject it, it actually relieves pain. How about that? Yeah. But anyway, so we're going to talk about eating sugar tonight. And not just sugar, but things that convert to sugar. Right. So things that convert rapidly to sugar, what are those? Those are the simple carbohydrates. Why do they call them simple? They're simple because they have a simple molecular structure, which doesn't take much for the body to break them apart. And of course, that spins your glucose into the stratosphere, causing all kinds of insulin spikes and that kind of thing, because it breaks it apart so fast. It's simple to break apart. It's like taking, a 3-link chain and breaking it. That doesn't take much. Complex carbohydrates like vegetables and whole fruits with fiber intact and all that kind of thing, they have more complex structure, so it takes longer to break them apart, and thus not the spike in insulin. Right. So the things that break apart easily are, well, obviously anything with sugar in them. So candy, snacks, anything like that. Corn chips will do that. Breads, pastas, potatoes, breakfast cereals, and wheat, grains, anything like that, right? So we want to talk about all those things when we talk about sugar. So when we're talking about sugar tonight, don't just think it's about desserts and honey and agave syrup and maple syrup and that kind of thing. Of course, you want to start replacing those in the first place. We often use stevia in the house. Very rarely do we use honey for anything.
Right, no.
But we use stevia, monk fruit extract, and erythritol in that order, because monk fruit and stevia are from plant sources, and they're just, they're brought down to a level where we can put them into a powder, sometimes mixed with inulin or something like that. Make sure it's not mixed with dextrose or maltodextrin, because that's corn sugar, usually from GMO sources nonetheless. So you want to make sure that's inulin or something like that. And that gives the stevia or the monk fruit extract a little bit of a bulk, so you can use it, 1-for-1 in baking recipes and things like that. Erythritol I kind of give a second place because it may cause digestive issues for folks who are trying to correct their gut. Because erythritol, anything with all at the end, is an alcohol, right? Maltitol, sorbitol, mannitol, all these things. Right. We don't want to have those because they cause gas in the gut, and they metabolize quite quickly, and so that's what gives you the gas. Anyway, we're not really talking about that tonight. We're talking about sugars. So let's get into the sugar. So the impact of sugar. Let's take a look at this first image we want to give you here. We want to keep this to 30 minutes tonight so that we create all kinds of efficient value for you. So here's the impact of sugar on the body. What will it do? All kinds of nasty stuff. Leads to weight gain, well, we know that. Affects the brain, gives you sleepless nights. Contributes to poor oral health. Yeah, that should be obvious. Harms the heart. Causes liver problems. Why? Because sugar metabolizes just like alcohol. So non-fatty liver alcohol, or
Non
No,
Non-alcohol.
non-fatty liver, non-alcohol fatty liver
Right.
disease. My God, how come I couldn't
That's
think
what
of
I
that?
said.
Yeah.
Non-alcohol fatty liver.
Liver disease, right. So not from alcohol, but why do you have a fatty liver? From sugar. It also causes anxiety and depression. Why? Because whatever affects the gut affects the brain, right? Remember that whole connection with the enteric nervous system. It's a superhighway between your gut and your brain. It works both ways. If you get nervous about something, you'll get the butterflies in your stomach. If your stomach's not working right, you'll get brain fog. It's a vicious circle. It will raise your risk for type 2 diabetes. It will aggravate pain in the body. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on tonight. It will weaken the immune system, increase risk of cancer. We're going to get into several of these things. So what it does is it damages the immune system and reduces the immune system's functional ability. That's why it damages that. It can also lead to obesity, elevated triglycerides, abnormal LDL, HDL cholesterol ratios. That is something we often pay attention to. We don't pay attention to the levels themselves, but the ratios we certainly do. And it will also elevate arterial inflammation risk factors. So that means, your blood vessels can become inflamed. And that's another reason why it's too much sugar. It will also, now here's an interesting thing. It'll inhibit cellular protein synthesis, which results in dysfunctional bone, muscle, and joint chemistry. So this will accelerate the risk of osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, and chronic muscle and joint pain. And one more thing, it destroys nerves. So there you go. It destroys nerves, leading to chronic pain, neuropathies, vision disorders, and accelerated organ dysfunction. So those are some of the things those are the reasons why you should stay away from sugar.
Right.
And that's about all you need to know. So good night. No, kidding. No. So how does sugar create inflammation? Okay, so here's the link. Let's take another look at a graphic here, okay? So in the brain, sugar can rewire the brain's pathways. Diets full of processed and sugar-heavy foods can increase the risk of depression by 59%.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay, so let's think about just that one for a minute. Is it any wonder then that kids, young adults, who do a lot of sugar, and ever since the advent of Starbucks and all the rest of it, and these monster drinks and all the rest of it, is it any wonder that a lot of kids are depressed nowadays? I mean, we had our Fruit Loops and stuff when we were kids, but we didn't have all the super addictive stuff that we do today with sugar. So that is not surprising there. So in the heart, well, let's keep looking on the left-hand side, on the skin. So when sugar bombards your body, proteins incorporate as part of their structure, aging skin and causing wrinkles. So basically it will invade your body's building blocks. In the genitals, excess sugar can impair blood flow, upping the risk of erectile dysfunction in men and sexual arousal disorders in women. So often we think of ED with guys, but women, did you know that? That is interesting.
No, but it is also kind of an epidemic. I mean, you hear that all the time now. And of course, all the commercials on TV for drugs that will help you with ED. Well, why'd you get there in the first place? Right?
Yep, exactly. In the heart, sugar inflames the linings of the arteries and the heart. There we go, inflamed arteries, like we talked about just a few minutes ago, increasing the risk of stroke and heart attack. Nobody wants that. Kidneys, sugar overload can damage the kidney's delicate filtration system. Diabetes is one of the main causes of kidney failure. I think we know that. And the joints. High sugar diets pump inflammatory cytokines into your bloodstream, which can exacerbate arthritis. Okay, so there's one about pain, right? So there, that kind of solves that mystery. That's why the pain is happening. So another thing that people are concerned about that we used to talk about a lot when I worked with the Hallelujah Diet was that sugar caused, or not caused, but fed cancer.
Right, yeah.
Right? Why does sugar feed cancer? Well, our first clue should be how we even detect cancer. So quite often a popular detection method is called a PET scan. And so a PET scan, let's just explain how it works, and then maybe you can understand why sugar feeds cancer. They actually use sugar in this detection system. Check this out. So this is a blog post from a guy who was talking about a friend of his. He said, last week a friend who is a cancer survivor noted when people are given radioactive sugar before a positron emission tomography, a PET scan, So they're given this. So why does that work? It's because cancer cells love sugar. Now let's go down to the definition into the blue. What happens here through the whole process is this results in intense radiolabeling of the tissues with high glucose uptake. In other words, those tissues that love sugar, such as the normal brain, okay, liver, okay, kidneys, fine, and most cancers. Aha. Now, if a PET scan can detect cancer, so basically they drink this dye, the dye goes into the body and gravitates to the cancer because the cancer wants it. It's sucking it in. And that's how the machine captures. Oh, they say, oh, look, there's the cancer. Because how do we know? Because that's where the sugar's rushing to. My God, why is the sugar rushing to the cancer? Because it's its food. That's why. How obvious. And then you go to the hospital and they feed you like these, the Jello for one, which is laden with sugar.
Yeah.
And then all these things that are simple carbs that we talked about. And
Sandwiches,
potatoes and
mashed
sandwiches
potatoes.
and macaroni and oh, come on. Like, what is wrong with these people? They have nutritionists full-time at a hospital. Dietitians. Why do they not listen to this? Why do they not learn this? I don't understand it. I mean, who is pulling the strings here? Anyway, so sugar does feed cancer. Here's another fact to consider. High sugar levels induce cancer cell division. So in other words, makes cancer cells divide more. That's the whole problem with a cancer cell. It doesn't know when to stop growing. And it inhibits the mechanisms that slow down tumor growth and inhibits cancer cell apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. So in other words, it feeds the cancer's chronic problem of growing too much and stops the mechanisms that slow it down and cause it to die. This is a double whammy. This is another huge reason you don't want to have sugar when you're having cancer.
Right. You want to starve the cancer.
Starve the cancer, right. So how do we do that? Remember what we always say? If you have two forms of fuel. You have sugar and fat, essentially, right? So what you want to do is starve the body of sugar, simple carbs, switch more to complex carbs, but especially fat.
Yeah.
That way you will starve the cancer. It simply has no food. And actually, when you eat fat, it's better for your immune system anyway because it doesn't cause the sugar spike. So it's more of an elongated, like if you saw an insulin graph, you'd see that the fat kind of does this whole thing where sugar does this, right?
Yep.
So that is just easier on the body and you don't have to deal with that. There's no insulin spike and therefore the immune system doesn't need to get involved. So the immune system can keep working on the cancer instead of taking care of this insulin spike that you've damaged yourself with.
Right.
Think of an insulin spike like a pickaxe. How many times do you want to hit yourself with a pickaxe? Right? Every time you eat something that's going to cause an insulin spike, that's what you're doing. You're hurting yourself. You're stabbing yourself. Well, goodness, that hurts, doesn't it? Yep. You may not feel it, but one day all those stab marks are going to come up as something nasty that you don't want to deal with in your health.
Right.
So you don't want to be doing that. All right. So what else feeds sugar? Okay. So we've heard cancer likes sugar and sugar causes pain. There's two good reasons to avoid it already, not to mention diabetes and all the other things we saw in that red graphic. Well, here's some more. Check this out. Well, do you like sugar? So does cancer. So does diabetes. So does arthritis. I think we learned about those already. So does inflammation, which causes all of these things. Inflammation is the first thing that causes all of these other diseases. It causes yeast. Ladies, yeast infections, nobody wants those. Men, yeast in your bloodstream, it can still happen to you. It's still not good. Insomnia. Everybody needs sleep, and sugar is actually disrupting that. How about that? And most other diseases are caused by too much sugar in the blood. Now let's think about that. Go ahead.
I think back to when we were vegan for about 12 years.
Yep.
Thinking we were doing the right thing for our health, because that's why we went vegan, not because of animals and that kind of thing and PETA, but because we thought we were doing the right thing for our health. Do you remember how many yeast infections I used to get?
Yep. Yeah, and most, if you're going to do something like vegan, you have to do it very carefully. But now, having said that, you have to do, if you're going to do a keto diet, you also have to do that very carefully. If you're going to do a paleo diet, you have to do that very carefully.
Yep.
You can't just go on these assumed notions of what these diets are. Vegan, oh, that means anything without an animal. And that's what a lot of people do. They just go, oh, I'm just animal rights. I'm just going to eat anything that doesn't include an animal. Well, guess what? Doritos and Coke are vegan. Pork rinds and GMO-laden cream cheese are keto.
Yeah.
Paleo can include all kinds of hormone-induced bovine meat. And so, well,
and lots of sugar for that matter.
Yeah, and sugar too. So you got to be careful. See, the whole point of each of these diets, if you want to call them that, were created to pull away from all these nasty things, get back to nature, get back to things that are organic, things that are grown properly if they walk on the ground, so animals that properly feed on what they're supposed to be feeding on, and get away from all the packaged foods. That's why vegans, now having heard what Jody said, if you're doing a vegan diet properly, a whole food plant-based diet, that's why people started reterming that whole vegan thing, because vegan got a bad name because people are doing it stupidly. You have to do a whole food, not junk food, processed food, plant-based diet, right? If you do that properly, yes, it will reverse cancer. I've seen it hundreds of times.
Right.
A paleo diet can do the same thing. A vegan diet can do the same thing. If you do it right, if you pull away from all those foods that are being raised incorrectly and stick to a whole food diet, basically all we're doing, guys, is getting back to nature. And if you get back to nature, that's when the healing begins. So you look at all this and go, wow, well, how come, because some people who are doing the vegan diet, we never were able to figure this out. We go, well, wait a minute. If vegan diets are so good, how come Grandpa, who eats eggs and butter and meat every day, lives to be 99 years old,
right,
and a vegan had a heart attack at 50? Well, because Grandpa, part of the reason is why Grandpa had a head start. See, if he's 99 now, how, he was born, let's say he was 100, right? So he was born in 1922.
Right.
Well, that's before we had a whole bunch of packaged foods, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So he grew up on the farm. He grew up on whole foods.
Not to mention working hard every day, I'm sure.
That's right. He was outside getting his vitamin D, getting his muscles strong, eating water from a well or a spring. He had a head start without a whole bunch of packaged foods. That's why Grandpa lives to be 99, regardless of the fact that he's eating the things that science tells us is unhealthy for us. But really, those research studies are skewed because they're not considering modern processes with those foods. You see what I'm saying? Right. So we just got to pull back to nature and get back to things really simple. So now sugar is not, refined sugar, that's another thing, right? Have a little bit of honey now and then. Even the Bible says in Proverbs, you have too much honey, you're going to get sick. Well, there you go. We should take that as consideration, even if we're not considering refined sugar. But refined sugar has a real addiction process, and here's what it is. If you eat sugar, you like it, you crave it, it has addictive properties. Then the blood sugar levels spike. This is called, so dopamine is released in the brain, and that causes addiction. Then there's mass insulin secreted to drop the blood sugar levels. That leads to blood sugar levels falling rapidly. So you got this, right? Remember what I said about the insulin spike? So what comes up must come down just as fast as it went up. So there's your sugar crash. You get high insulin levels. That causes immediate fat storage. So now you're going to get fat. The body craves the lost sugar high. And what happens? You want it again. So you get hunger and cravings. That low blood sugar levels cause increased appetite and cravings. And this cycle is repeated over and over and over again. And so that causes what we call leptin resistance. So leptin is the hormone in your brain that tells your body to stop eating. So if you get into this cycle and you eat a whole bunch of bad foods, packaged foods, sugar-laden foods, and you're staying away from the whole food plant-based diet or whole food even, meat-based diet, what's going to happen is the signal in your brain is going to get so tired of going off like a siren that it's going to be like crying wolf.
Right.
And your body's going to go, leptin? Meh, never mind. Keep eating. And
that's why when you are addicted to sugar, you keep going back to it. You keep going more. And because it's the empty calories, you're not getting the nutrients that you need from foods that are nutrient dense. So you're eating these empty calories and your body is also going, where are the nutrients? Just keep eating until you get the nutrients you need to keep surviving.
And that's why education is so important, like watching this tonight, because if someone keeps doing that and they don't understand why, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I feel really bad for folks who get really big. And that's why we have a heart to help these people. That's why we want to teach you guys, because that person who just doesn't know and is eating what they think is healthy, and they weren't raised with proper education on this kind of thing, they're in a trap. As you can see from that cycle, from that last slide, I mean, you get it, right? I mean, that the leptin signal is not turning off. Their body literally does not know when to stop eating because they're not getting the signal. Right. They're leptin resistant. Here's the good news. The good thing is that the only thing it takes to turn that leptin signal back on and have the body recognize it, switch up your food. That's all you have to do. So what do you need for that? You need education. What's really good for me? What should I be eating? Switch to those foods, and leptin turns right back on.
Yep.
How about that? Yep. And here's the best thing. You may have heard us talk about intermittent fasting over the last couple of weeks. We talked about MSM, or we talked about MCT oil and that type of thing. And I think even a few weeks back we talked about intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting, what that will do is, so there's the leptin signal, right, which tells your body to stop eating. And then there's something called ghrelin. Ghrelin is the other hormone that tells your body to start eating. Well, here's the beautiful thing. When you do intermittent fasting, in addition to switching back to those good foods, your leptin signal will turn on, and your ghrelin signal, because when you're intermittent fasting, your body will feed on its own fat. Ghrelin is the signal that tells your body to start eating. It doesn't turn on because your body has been adapted, what we call fat adapted. It will start feeding on your own fat and doesn't even send a hunger signal.
Right.
So what happens there? You start losing fat because you're burning it, right? You're not eating anything, so there's no sugar spike. You've got lots of energy because all of us have endless energy in our fat stores, even regardless of how skinny we are. We have enough fat to go for quite some time.
And let me add to that, then you will heal.
Yeah.
Right? You give your body a break, you feed it what it needs, you do some intermittent fasting, and whatever's going on with you, and we all have issues, you will start to heal.
Right, because of the whole, remember what we said? You have two sources of sugar, or two sources of fuel, sugar or fat. Sugar causes all this metabolic damage, is a big mess, insulin spikes, all the rest of it. The immune system gets involved. There's a big emergency in your body every time you eat sugar. Fat does not do that. It's a slow, steady fuel. And it does not involve your immune system. It doesn't involve any sugar spikes. Like Jody said, your body can just feed on the fat. There's no emergencies going on, so that means the immune system can go after the things it needs to, help you heal, and get rid of cancers that you don't even know are there. All the other things that maybe you're about to get a cold and you don't even know it yet, your immune system can attack that as long as you're not eating sugar. Now, there's another thing. You're eating lots of sugar all the time. You're like, how come I'm catching every cold that comes along? I got COVID 3 times, blah, 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 blah. Take a look at your diet. Now, you may not be doing a whole lot of sugar. You might say, well, that's not fair. I'm not doing a whole lot of sugar. Why am I still getting lots of colds? You know, genetic predispositions still predispose us to certain things that maybe other people don't. So maybe you are more sensitive to sugar. Maybe you have to be really careful with sugar. I know to some people when we're doing an 8-week program with them that, you know, try and try and try. They're doing what we're telling them to a T. And they just can't get into ketosis, that state which your body is now burning fat as its first choice instead of sugar. And their body's still burning sugar. Those people really have to try hard, right? So you kind of need to discover your genetic predispositions and really go after those things that are making your body weak, because genetic expression, so those things that you're weak in, you have a genetic predisposition to colon cancer, for example, which is in my family. I have to be a lot more careful than maybe Jody does about things that we know cause colon cancer. I have to really stay away from those, whereas Jody can do them and have no problem. So we still have to adjust ourselves according to what our genetic predispositions are. But like I always say, that genetic predisposition is like a hand grenade that you put in the corner of your living room and the pin's still in it. If the pin's still in it, and you leave it in the corner of your living room for the rest of your life, is it really a threat? Yeah, kinda. But if you never pull the pin, it's not going to hurt anybody. What you eat determines whether or not that, and how you live determines whether or not that pin gets pulled. Your lifestyle, your dietary habits control genetic expression.
Right.
That's called epigenetics. Maybe you've heard that term. That means above genetics. That means something that controls genetics. Your genetics do not rule your life. Just because you're told you have this gene or that gene doesn't mean you need to cut off this or stop doing that or whatever. It means you need to adjust your lifestyle. It doesn't mean you need to cut out body parts. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So, got a couple minutes left here. Addiction, we talked about that. Okay, the good news, foods that lower blood sugar. Just include more of these in your diet. This is really easy stuff. Cinnamon. Cinnamon is potent in reducing blood sugar and reducing the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Fenugreek, we have some of that in a spice jar in our cupboard.
Right.
Believed to lower blood sugar levels in people with both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Haha. As well as those with pre-diabetes, which is pretty much most of us. Garlic. Garlic extracts increase the amount of insulin available to people with diabetes. How about that? Here's some more. Blueberries. Who doesn't like blueberries? Full of anthocyanins, which help inhibit certain digestive enzymes. Interesting. Slowing down digestion. Haha. And preventing spikes in blood sugar. They also have lots of fiber in them, right? So that helps that too.
Yep.
Apple cider vinegar. We always tell people who have poor stomach acid, as we get older, that's a natural thing. Our stomach acid just kind of goes down. That's why a lot of grandmas and grandpas can't eat a whole lot, because their stomach acid is low and they just don't know it. So this apple cider vinegar will help to increase sensitivity to insulin and help reduce spikes in blood sugar after eating starchy food in those people with pre-diabetes as well as those with type 2 diabetes. Another hint I'm going to give you right after this. Remind me, Jody, we're going to another hint right after the slide.
Okay.
Avocados. Do you notice these are the things we tell people to eat all the time in our 8-week program? Blueberries, apple cider vinegar, avocados.
I ate all three of those today. I had avocados for lunch. I had spinach for lunch and put apple cider vinegar on my spinach. And I had a blueberry chocolate smoothie for supper.
Nice. Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, this fruit, avocado, has been shown to lower the risk of metabolic syndrome. What is metabolic syndrome? It's basically the precursor to diabetes. Yeah. Another thing you can do, speaking of eating, it sounds kind of unnatural, but it's not. So take a walk right after you eat.
Yep.
People go, I'm not going to get a cramp. Surprisingly, no. Nope. If you swim, yeah, that's dangerous. Don't want to do that. But you can walk, and we're not talking about a power walk. Just a nice, steady walk after a meal. So as Thanksgiving's coming up, remember, go outside, maybe play some catch with a football, maybe go for a little bit of a walk. That will help to bring down the insulin levels and the sugar levels. For whatever reason, walking will do that. We have a friend who has a daughter with type 1 diabetes, and she has a continuous blood sugar monitor. And if that thing, the bell starts going off and her blood sugar is too high, what's their go-to? Go have a walk.
Yep.
That's what it is. So there you go. That should be a lesson enough to do that. All right. So how can you learn more about this stuff? Well, you spend time with us. That's how you do it. You start off by doing this, and then we can test your blood if you'd like and see where you're at. And if you need some help, which a lot of people do, we give them the blood test. We go through it with them, and they go, okay, that's a whole lot of information. How do I do this? This is how you do it. The Biologic Blueprint 8-week wellness program. This is our signature 8-week program. We're getting lots of great results. A lot of people are lining up for it. You need to get in on this, especially as the holidays come. This is a great way to control your cravings and control your temptations. So you'll get an initial blood lab and 60-minute consultation with me. I'll explain everything what's going on in your blood very simply, very logically. You know how we talk here. This is how I'm going to explain it to you, very logically. You're going to get a customized 8-week meal plan with grocery lists. Guys, this is 200 pages in a PDF. It is amazing. This is something we have just initiated. You're going to get a 30-minute progressive coaching lesson every 7 days with me, 30 minutes specifically to your blood test results and how we're going to fix them. You'll also get 6 half-hour educational videos with me and Jody. Very important stuff that everybody needs to know, and nobody seems to know it. You're also going to get some body scanning equipment. You're going to get some blood monitoring equipment, and you get to keep all that. You don't have to give it back or anything. You're also going to get $50 toward anything at lairdwellness.com. Plus, we have a HIPAA-compliant patient portal to put all your results in, unlimited tech support, 20% off your follow-up blood test to see how you did. That's probably the most important thing. And the best thing is, it's only going to cost you nothing to do this. How about that? All you have to do is go to lairdwellness.com/blueprint. Right. lairdwellness.com/blueprint. You're going to come to a screen where you can book time with me. It's a half hour, absolutely free. We can talk all about this, see if it's right for you. You'll be like, well, wait a minute. How come you guys don't have this on your website? You're right. We don't have it on our website because we want you to talk to us. Maybe you don't need this at all. Let's talk first. Let's determine if you even need this.
Right.
Maybe we can solve all your issues in half an hour. I've been doing that with people on Facebook all the time recently. Spend half an hour with them, solve issues they've been wondering about for 10 years.
Right.
Easy. So let's do that first. Call me. lairdwellness.com/blueprint. Well, it's a Zoom call. That's what it, but anyway, you'll be able to book time there. Let's spend time together, see if this is for you. And if it is, great. Let's get started. Okay. All right. So thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Yes.
And I hope this was very educational for you. And we will see you next time on Laird Wellness Live. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.